Thank you guys so much for taking your time to speak with me today. Season 2 is just amping up season 1, and I know that we start where we immediately left off. If you could talk about, Hamza, what Bash is currently feeling now that his mentor is gone, and also he's got his ex-fiance showing up at his feet.
Well, it's just an uncomfortable situation for him, that even in both the I can say the greatness of it in its good and bad manifestations, that of course there's a great amount of fear for losing Bishop, who's been this tentpole of stability for him, and the opportunities that he's gotten in Canada, and the way that he's mentored him through medicine, and just somebody that he loves and respects so much. And while he's dealing with that, somebody else that he thought to have lost, 5 years prior, has shown up in his life again, and throws up all these questions into like, does he have another shot at a life that he thought he'd once lost, while building a completely separate life, that looks and feels and is completely different to what he had back home. So it is very conflicting and a little bit tumultuous, and tune in to see what happens next.
John, is Bishop at all concerned about his staff and his medical career, or is he more concerned right now about getting better?
I'd probably say the first. I think once he's mobile and lucid, then yeah, he's on to. He basically has to go on to kind of damage limitation mode, because of the denial that he was in before, and some of the choices he made. And those choices that he made, which weren't necessarily the right choices, will have to be defended in this second season. And also, what Hamza didn't say is that he himself is in quite a precarious position if anything does happen to Bishop, because not only was Bishop his mentor, he's also his protector in terms of the records from Syria that don't exist or were faked. So yeah, he himself will be, as we see in the first episode, there's a new acting head comes in, where there's history. And yeah, if things don't go well for Dr. Bishop, then Hamza, I'm bloody doing it the other way around now, Dr. Hamid could also be in serious trouble. So yeah, they're kind of linked by my denial in a way. So that's what he's got to deal with first and foremost. He sort of feels a bit like a Superman, He's not going to die. He's in charge.
Bash, I mean, not Bash. Hamza, I did it like it's not as easy as you think.
Happens fast.
Hamza, do you think that Bash is going to try to impress this new head of the hospital, or I should say the new hospital figure? That way he feels like it's sort of a distraction from his past, or do you think he'll spend more time just sort of trying to connect with him on a personal level, the way that he does with Bishop?
I think Dr. Novak, the new acting chief, like his approach is so different, but ultimately he still is a person of authority, which Bash, like it or not, has to respect to some degree. However, he is inarguably not Dr. Bishop, and because of his loyalty to Bishop and his care for him, and the real life stakes that necessitate Bishop being there, like John mentioned, for Bash to continue practicing medicine, like all that coupled together is very conflicting for Bashir, because enter new doctor who is his boss, who has a very particular way of doing things that is more akin to how Bash is accustomed to practicing medicine. So there's a lot of push and pull in this season where he wants to impress him, and he wants to have that same relationship, but it's impossible just because of who they are, and more importantly, who they aren't.
It strikes me that there's a lot of similarities, perhaps, with television companies as well. When there's a new boss comes in, regardless of how successful the last boss's show is doing, the new boss wants his own show. He doesn't want that show, and so it's a bit of a clean new broom sort of element too. Let's not forget, doctors can be quite egotistical as well. They're not all angels and saviors.
This season we'll be seeing cases that include food poisoning, sensory processing disorder, fractures. Hamza, what kind of research did you do going into this season for these kinds of cases?
Oh, we're so lucky with all the medical help that we get. Every procedure that you see, be it even something as simple as checking someone's heart rate or a general like physical exam or something like that, there is somebody on set talking us through it, like an actual medical professional, either
a working medical professional as well. It's someone who is taking time out from like having just finished their shift, or they're going to be working overnight or something. Sorry, Hamza, I interrupted. I'm terrible.
No, it's a very important distinction. It's current to the medical procedures that we practice today. And then on top of that, these larger medical procedures that you see, we do a full day of boot camp to not only learn about what's happening, but to choreograph all the action required. Because, when you have 6-7 people trying to save a life, it does become this choreographed dance to see who's going to do what, who's getting bloods, who's putting in the IVs, who's checking the heads, who's doing compressions, who's calling for this, who's calling for that. And we would be like, I can speak about myself, but I think I'm right in including everybody in this, but we would be absolutely lost without that help. It informs the writing, it informs our actions. And if you're seeing a medical procedure that happens quite frequently on this medical procedural of ours, we have had so much help from real doctors, real nurses, real paramedics who are currently working, who talk us through the accurate way to save a person's life. And we see that on display a couple times every episode. So we get a lot of help, and we're fortunate enough that kind of preparation allows us to do our job really well, we hope.
John, what do you think it is about Transplant that continues to make it such a fan favorite series?
I think it's Hamza. No, I mean, I'm not being silly. I think it is Hamza. I mean, I think it's the storyline, it's the character, and it's the actor. There's a great conjoining there of all the elements. It's a storyline that people haven't seen. Obviously, people like hospital dramas, and what we, in the same way that as Hamza's just described in terms of the choreography and the work that we do on medical shows, I think the other characters don't just exist as a function. I think there is a depth and a reality that everyone has tried to bring to their character. But ultimately, I would have to say, your show really stands or falls on your lead. And if people weren't invested and cared about Hamza's journey, then it wouldn't have it wouldn't have that magic, and that's what it is, and it's nobody sets out to make a mediocre show, but sometimes, you just need something special to kind of elevate it. And I think in this occasion, with the writing and with a great lead, then that clicks.
It's the cast as well. There's a chemistry that also I think is innate between all of you, and it plays so well on screen. And that's sort of lightning in a bottle, as they describe it, where all of you work together so well that this puzzle piece comes together so quickly but so beautifully. And it's a great illustration of the work that you all do, and also the chemistry that you all have.
Well, then that comes down to casting, like going back to someone like Virginia and Joe and the work that went in there in terms of putting together those elements. I mean, again, as I say, you're not trying to create any tensions, but sometimes with the best will in the world, it just doesn't happen. But on this occasion, as you say, yeah, it worked out.
And well, thanks so much, John. That was a very kind thing to say. Like I'm such a John Hannah fan, and like he's saying, that's nice. But as far as that chemistry that you're talking about earlier, I was talking about these medical boot camps. About this is where we learned that this is, and that's where we all met. Like the when we were all cast, I think the 6 of us, we were thrown in together. And it's like, all right, cool. Now here's 3 days of prep, learn how to become doctors. And I think because we all hit it off so well, starting at ground zero from a medical expertise point of view, and growing together, I think we were all forged in that together, and a great, over several nights of good sushi, we just bonded and have thoroughly enjoyed working with each other. Definitely I can speak about John, but like you said, Jim, Aisha, Laurence, Kenny, Tori, I think we've had a phenomenal time working with each other, and I'm glad that it reflects well on screen, because we really do have a good time,
and it means more seasons.